Everything is going right according to plan and so well in MAGA world. I'm Brian. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast brought to you by Tom Laporta and Laporta Contracting and Roofing. If you're in the state of Florida and you need roof replacement or repair, Tom Laporta is your guy. He'll never sell you a roof you do not need. Online at laportaroofing.com. Okay, so a lot's happening. We're going to cover quite a bit on the podcast today. But I wanted to start with something that Megyn Kelly said just a couple days ago with Mike Rowe, the Dirty Jobs guy. And I'm glad she did this because this is something I've been talking about in the last couple of months. And no one else has talked about it. And I'm glad Megyn Kelly has because she's going to, well, I'll play it and I'll talk about it and I'll play it. And what she's talking about is something you've heard me mention when this first happened, are conservatives going on the Gavin Newsom podcast, okay? The Democrat Party is in complete disarray. They have no leadership. They had a couple of people they've been planning on running, and that's Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer burned herself with palling around with Trump in the Oval Office, remember, with the file over her face, and then President Trump was at Michigan talking to the soldiers there and pulled her up at the mic. And so she's done. David Hogg is doing all kinds of destruction that he's too young and arrogant to understand to the Democrat Party. And AOC is a joke. And Bernie Sanders is a communist with her friend Bernie Sanders. The only, and I'm not saying that he's a credible person, Gavin Newsom, but the best that they have is Gavin Newsom. Okay. And what Gavin Newsom's been doing with this podcast is to humanize himself and make himself sound reasonable. And he's had a lot of conservatives on, like Charlie Kirk. And there's been some others. And I've said, none of these people should be going on Gavin Newsom's podcast. And the reason I've said that is there's multiple reasons. One of them is you don't want him to sound reasonable. The Democrat, because he's not reasonable. The Democrats have all these wackadoodle positions. I'm not going to go through the list. You know what they are. And he's using these conservatives to try to distance himself from them and sound like a reasonable Democrat. If you look at the last election, Donald Trump won in a landslide, but we didn't win in a landslide in Congress, the House in particular. So what that tells me, we got the majorities, but not as big of a majority as we would like. So what that tells me is that a lot of people are Democrats. They didn't support all this craziness the Democrat Party was doing, so they voted for President Trump, but they still voted Democrat in congressional races and certainly in the House races. So these are not people that have been red-pilled. They might have been red-pilled light. And if a Democrat comes along who sounds like a normal human being, which is what Gavin Newsom's attempting to do, even though he's a complete failure and California's a mess, and some of them may gravitate in the next presidential election and vote for him, and we don't want that to happen. And these conservatives going on his program are doing that. And not only that, it's almost like they are giving their stamp of approval. Yeah, they may debate and disagree, but it looks like a sparring match, and it's not real. It's what you have with a lot of people, and this is something I don't do, and maybe it's something I should do, but I don't. But a lot of people are clout chasing. Gavin Newsom's clout chasing, and a lot of conservatives who go on Gavin Newsom's podcast, they're clout chasing too. They want more people to learn about them. They want to go viral and everything else, and they go on his program so Democrats will find them. And then, by the way, they bring their audience to him, and it's a bad idea. So anyway, Megyn Kelly had Mike Rowe on, the Dirty Jobs guy, and Mike Rowe mentioned to Megyn Kelly that Gavin Newsom's reached out for him to be a guest on his podcast. Let me share this. This is Mike Rowe with Megyn Kelly this week.
Happening with...
Oh, hold on. Let me cue it up. Okay, I got it queued up now. Here we go.
Happening with people at that level in podcasts. What's Gavin Newsom doing?
He's running for president.
That one makes more sense to me strategically. She should be in her therapist's office. Her brother Craig is not. Oh, he did?
Yeah. What do you think I should do?
I don't support it.
Yeah?
Well, my feeling is Gavin Newsom is using people to build up his skills so that he can more effectively debate the Republican nominee.
Now that's an interesting thing. So, and what she said, that's very true. The presidential elections, oftentimes presidencies are decided on that debate. And Democrats don't spend a lot of time debating with conservatives. And Gavin Newsom is going to have like 4 years doing this on his podcast. And by the time it gets to the debates, he'll know how to debate. He'll know their arguments better. He'll have experience. Yeah, Megyn Kelly is very smart.
Oh. Well, my feeling is Gavin Newsom is using people to build up his skills so that he can more effectively debate the Republican nominee in 2028.
Even if somebody goes on and cleans his clock.
Yeah, which basically happened when Charlie Kirk went on. But that's not good. Gavin Newsom took some blows, but emerged having learned something, probably, that he'll be better at handling in 2028.
Yeah, and also on that interview with Charlie, when he had Charlie Kirk on, Gavin Newsom, Charlie Kirk allowed him to walk back some of the more crazy, the more outrageous transgendered issues. So he was able to correct the record too. Or I shouldn't say correct the record. He was able to make himself sound more reasonable, normal, and sane. And he's none of those things.
And I just don't think it's the job of the right to help train this guy. I likened it to the Rocky versus Drago fight in Rocky IV. Why would we help train the Russian?
Do you think there was an argument that went the other way when Bill Maher went to the White House? Like you hear, like Larry David wrote that editorial, my dinner with Adolf.
Right.
And there's this idea that it's like, look, that's a bridge too far. And you're just simply lending credibility by the very proximity of your presence. I get both. I
think that makes no sense. If the president of the United States invites you for dinner, you should go.
No matter who.
I would have gone if it were Joe Biden,
Absolutely.
Barack Obama, in a
Absolutely.
heartbeat. I would do that. You get to see the White House. Trump is very, he's gratuitous when you come there. He's gracious is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
He gives everybody a tour. It seems like almost everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a big difference. Gavin's not the president. So I'm glad she's doing that. And hopefully some of these top podcasters will hear that and make some change. It wasn't just Charlie Kirk that went over there. Other conservatives, including Steve Bannon, went on Newsom's podcast. And I think it is a bad idea. And I'm glad because Megyn Kelly's friends with these people. So, they watch her, they listen to her, so she may discourage some of that with some of the bigger. I hope so. Okay, so a lot of other things going on. Your thoughts on that? Certainly, I'd like to hear in the comments on the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to me on. What do you think about conservatives going on Gavin Newsom's podcast? I think Megyn Kelly is right on the money, and I'm glad she did it. Now, NPR being defunded and PBS too. I was talking about that in the last podcast. It's a great idea. I mean, that's just a long time coming. And what I was talking about on the last podcast, as long as I can remember, as long as I've been in this news and politics world, Republicans have talked about defunding public broadcasting, both radio and PBS and NPR, both radio and television. None of them did it. They keep funding them in the budget. And here Trump just did it. Boom. Just did it. And it's been a long time coming. These are very bad people. I mean, they're so left wing. They do it on the tax dollar. And they're double dipping because they do have advertisers they get money from, which they're not supposed to be doing. And they also have all those donors. So they don't need the tax money. They already sell advertising spots. But this is the head, this weirdo woman, this is the head of NPR. She's the CEO of NPR. And every once in a while with these leftists, when they're talking to other liberals, they say things that they wouldn't say if they thought Republicans were listening or watching. And she did this interview. I'm not exactly sure who did the interview with her, but this is the CEO of NPR. She's Catherine Marr is her name, and she's in a hotel room and on a Zoom. Listen to what she says. She dropped something. Listen.
The number one challenge here that we see and is, of course, the First Amendment in the United States is a fairly robust protection of rights, and that is a protection of rights both for platforms, which I actually think is very important, that platforms have those rights to be able to regulate what kind of content they want on their sites. But it also means that it is a little bit tricky to really address some of the real challenges of where does bad information come from, and sort of the influence peddlers who have made a real market economy around it.
Okay. So she's talking about the challenges of the First Amendment and people who she wants to regulate the First Amendment is what she's talking about. This is who's running National Public Radio. This is why they're defunded. All right. The people, those on the left in this country are tyrants. And when we get these little brief moments of honesty from them, we've got to highlight it and focus in on it. Now, over the weekend, big story dropped, and I'm glad that this is happening, and it's happening early on. The Trump Justice Department, Pam Bondi's Justice Department, has agreed to a settlement with Ashley Babbitt's family. It's a $30 million lawsuit. And, you know, the shooting of Ashley Babbitt, that guy should be in prison for what he did. You know, if you watch the full video of that little area, and remember that Black Lives Matter guy was there wearing full MAGA gear from head to toe, pretending to be MAGA right there. But not long before she was murdered, Ashley Babbitt, you see what she was trying to do. She was trying to stop people from continuing through the Capitol building. She went up to two police. It's all on video. And I think, I may be wrong about this. You guys can let me know if I'm right or wrong about this in the comments. But I think, wasn't it that fake BLMer who was in the MAGA gear, who was working for the networks, the mainstream news? It might have been his video that caught this, but for some reason it popped in my head. Let me know in the comments if it was. I can't remember now, but I think it was. But you see her go up to two police officers, two Capitol police officers, and beg and plead with them to stop the people from moving forward, right, through that door. And they're just standing there with their hands in their pockets. She was trying to stop it. And that was just moments before she was murdered. One person died that day. It was Ashley Babbitt, and she was murdered by that Capitol police officer. Now, as of this moment, and this may change, but the settlement's confidential, so we don't know if they gave her the whole well, she's sadly gone. We don't know if they gave her family the whole $30 million or not. Maybe it was more. Who knows? But I'm thinking that'll probably come out. Although there's so few leaks, you know, with the Trump White House. If it comes out as a leak, it's a leak that they've leaked out on purpose. But that I'm glad they settled that, and I hope it was the 30 million, if not more. It's god awful. And now that that's settled, maybe the settlement's been made. Maybe people can start focusing in on what Ashley Babbitt was really trying to do that day, and get some reporting out there. Maybe more documentaries that are more mainstream showing her trying to stop people from advancing through that doorway, and how she was murdered, and the incompetence of the cop that did murder her. What a terrible day. You know, and you know what I often tell people, though, when I talk about January 6th, here's the sad reality. The liberal media have already framed the narrative on that in the press accounts all these years, and they're never going to retract or correct it. And as much media and physical things written, like books and documentaries, need to be made about what really happened on January 6th, what President Trump really said, what Ashley Babbitt was really trying to do, like I explained with those police officers, because the way that historians operate is they go back into, mostly these days, media archives. And because people don't write letters anymore, and we don't have as much written as we used to have with past history, because everything's so electronic now. And my biggest fear with the historical narrative of everything involving this is that these left-wing fake news media accounts are what historians are going to use in 100 years, 150 years, 200 years. And that they're going to be considered primary sources, and CNN and MSNBC and all these fake news people very well may have already permanently crafted what future historians will take as the gospel, when it comes to January 6th. So it's so important to get all of these things corrected. It really is, and it has to be done. And if we don't do it, who's going to do it, right? So anyone in the conservative media sphere who has podcasts, who has websites, news outlets, or is a writer who writes books or makes documentary films really need to cover everything involving January 6th, the truth of it, and Ashley Babbitt. Now, I want to talk about the new energy drinks that Mike Lindell has. He has a new energy drink brand. It's called Rev 7. He has 3 flavors, blueberry lemonade and green apple. And yesterday was Saturday. It was Saturday afternoon. I'd been doing things all over the house. And by the afternoon, I was so tired. And I went in the refrigerator and got the Mike Lindell MyPillow Rev 7 green apple energy drink. And I drank it. Let me tell you, it gave me so much energy. And I've had all the different energy drinks. But, you know, with Mike Lindell's, there's no sugar and there's no caffeine. And it was really amazing. Well, it tastes great. I had the green apple, and I loved it. But what just blew my mind is I drank it. A few minutes later, all of a sudden, I realized I'm up doing all these things, you know, and cleaning out the garage. I cleaned our back porch, and I was doing all these things I would not normally do on a Saturday. Might wait for Sunday, and I was just doing these things. And I realized it was Mike Lindell's Rev 7 energy drink. And unlike all the other energy drinks, because it has no sugar or caffeine, there was no jitters, there was no crashing later afterwards. I just felt great and had all of this energy, and it tastes great. So go to mypillow.com and try out this new energy drink. It is amazing, and it tastes great, and it gave me so much energy for the rest of the day. And it just going here, I'm at the MyPillow website. If you don't know which flavor to choose, right? I'm a green apple. I love green apple, but the green apple, lemonade, and blueberry, they're all great. You can get a 3-pack for free when you start a bi-weekly 12-pack subscription with my promo code Kane, of course, as well. And you also get a big discount on the energy drink with my promo code Kane at checkout. They're caffeine-free, fuels your brain performance, produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, boosts memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It'll increase brain activity and reaction time, balance your mood, reduces stress, and just gives you lots of energy like it did me yesterday. So go to mypillow.com, use my promo code Kane, and try out Mike Lindell's new energy drink. All right, we're going to take our first break and be right back. Tired of dry, dusty history? Pink History with host Andrea is the podcast that brings the past to life. Pink History is a lighthearted journey through the lives of trailblazing women who changed our world. From fearless warriors like Joan of Arc, artistic icons such as Frida Kahlo, to heroines like Anne Frank. Each episode of Pink History brings you quirky stories, surprising facts, and inspiring legacies, all with a fresh, spirited twist that makes history anything but boring. Whether you're a history buff, a curious learner, or just love a good story, Pink History is here to educate, entertain, and empower. So what are you waiting for? Add Pink History to your podcast playlist right now on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and TikTok. Tune in each week to meet the women who made history loud, bold, and unforgettable. History's never been this fun. Pink History. Tune in right now. What if healing wasn't just possible, but purposeful? At noblehealthandbeauty.com, they believe in the power of faith, food, and holistic living to transform your life. The founder of noblehealthandbeauty.com, Gina, kept her cancer isolated for nearly 4 years without chemo by embracing clean living, supplements, and unwavering faith in God. Her mission is to help you do the same. At noblehealthandbeauty.com, you'll explore fresh, nourishing recipes, find lifestyle lifestyle tips, as well as a full range of wellness tools. Everything is grounded in scripture and spiritual strength. Romans 8:31 says, if God is for you, who can be against you? And at noblehealthandbeauty.com, you'll feel exactly that. Supported, uplifted, and empowered. Make sure to shop the go-to supplements through the Full Script online supplements dispensary at us.fullscript.com/welcome/noblehealthandbeauty. That's us.fullscript.com/welcome/noblehealthandbeauty. And all noblehealthandbeauty.com customers will receive 10% off. Just create an account and happy healing. Whether you're facing illness or seeking radiant health, you're not alone. Embrace wellness, discover purpose, and visit noblehealthandbeauty.com right now. Are you tired of pouring hours into social media posts only to get nothing? Struggling against those invisible algorithms that are burying your content? You're not alone, but there is help available with AI Prompt Power, the new book available at itproductionsllc.com. AI Prompt Power shares high-converting social media prompts for explosive marketing success. With AI Prompt Power, you'll learn to crush algorithms, create viral content in just 5 minutes, and skyrocket your engagement and your sales. You don't need writing skills or even tech expertise. With psychology-backed prompts and platform-specific hacks for Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and more, you'll future-proof your strategy to dominate the social media landscape. AI Prompt Power is perfect for social media managers, entrepreneurs, content creators, and those of you in marketing who are ready to leave the guessing game behind and win big. Don't waste another post. Unlock the secret to viral success right now and order your copy of AI Prompt Power online at itproductionsllc.com. That's itproductionsllc.com.
This is Dr. Philip Appleton. I'm a chiropractic physician. I've seen thousands and thousands of patients in my career. I've been a chiropractic physician here in Pompano Beach for 40 years. We're open 6 days a week. If you have sciatica, you have bursitis, you have tendonitis, you're tired of taking the pills, the drugs, the injections, and you heard that you have to live with it, well, there's a lot of times you don't have to live with it. I've had great success with helping people. My testimonials are marvelous with patients. They love the treatment because no injections, there's no medication, there's no surgery, there's none of that. It's strictly either the laser or the acupuncture I do or shockwave therapy I do. Open 6 days a week. Come in for the free consultation and be willing to look at you and help you.
Take advantage of that no-charge consultation with Dr. Appleton. Remember, appointments are not necessary and walk-ins are welcome even on Saturdays. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonChiro.com.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so Jim Acosta has a podcast now, and I wonder what he's thinking these days. They were trying to get rid of Jim Acosta at CNN, and they put him on, 11 o'clock at night to try to get him to quit, and he quit. And I'm surprised he let them have that power over him. But he started a podcast, and I've not listened to it, and it doesn't really make the news too much. You would think it would, but I guess he's no longer in that crowd. But on his podcast the other day, he had Sean Penn on, who goes totally off the rails about Trump, and that's why I'm playing this clip. But he also had Swalwell, and Swalwell is the one that had the physical relationship, the sexual relationship with Chinese spy Fang Fang. So this is Jim Acosta, Eric Swalwell, and Sean Penn talking about the dangers of Trump. Listen.
Bukele needs to be told, there are going to be other administrations that are going to come in here that are not going to look too kindly on this, what you're doing down there.
Jim, Bukele should be told that. The law firms that are caving should be told that. The colleges that are caving should be told that. The CEOs who have antitrust suits against them and are trying to find their way out by donating to his inauguration funds or helping him in some other way, they should be told that, we're taking inventory of who's trying to do, these one-off anti-democratic deals with Donald Trump. And there's going to be a day of reckoning and accountability.
Okay, so what Eric Swalwell is talking about here, a day of reckoning and accountability, right? What he's talking about doing is putting together an enemies list of traitors, people that they believe are collaborators with MAGA, with Trump, and when they're back in power, taking action against these collaborators on the list. But, this guy, Swalwell, he had a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy. He's telling Jim Acosta, who's not even questioning him about that Trump's a danger. The CCP still controlled this guy, all right? Every time he hooked up with Fang Fang, the CCP had it wired up with perfect 4K sound and audio, no matter where they were, at home, in a hotel, the back seat or front seat of the car. Believe me, they have all of that information. And they were up in his phones and computers, and they still are. This guy is a CCP, Chinese Communist Party asset. And when he goes on these shows like this, he's doing the work of the CCP. Why is he free? Why is he free and treated like a credible person? They just sent a congressman, a Republican, to prison for years for doing much less than what this guy did. But anyway, Sean Penn will be coming up shortly. Let's get back to it.
Because the president's poll numbers are they're under 40% right now.
Lies.
He's in a free fall as far as his
Those
poll
are
numbers.
lies.
And we're putting more and more seats in Congress and in the Senate in play. And so we expect a wave-like election, and we're preparing for that.
Yeah,
and
keep dreaming.
We are going to be a check that is not there right now. And so, yes, he should think twice about what the long-term future of El Salvador is if Donald Trump is no longer in power.
But before Bukele gets to that
Sean
point,
Penn, here's Sean
dealing
Penn.
with another leader, we should consider worst-case scenarios. And I do think it's a reasonable theory that Donald Trump is not unlike the spouse of someone who leaves him perhaps for another.
What?
Who then murders their former partner because if they can't have her, nobody can. And I think Donald Trump in his solipsism may have that relationship with the world. And that this destruction
what a nut.
Is in part a power play and also a literal intention of his final out.
You think he'll try to stay on?
I think he might try to destroy the world before he ages out of life.
Before he ages out of life. Sean Penn. There are a couple of things here. I want to ask you guys this, okay? Now, Sean Penn, when you see how he is here, it makes you wonder, well, maybe he's one of the greatest actors to ever live because he sounds like such a nut, right? And he's good in the movies. The last movie I think I saw him in was many years ago, was, oh boy, what was that? I don't even remember the name of it. It was a very good movie. The one directed by Clint Eastwood that he was in. Anybody remember the name? Let me know in the comments. But there's another possibility with Sean Penn, and I'll run this by you. And I'm not saying that this is true, but I got to wonder, is he acting here? Does he have a script that he's been given that he's acting with here, Sean Penn? And this is what I mean. Sean Penn has been injected into some pretty big things. If you remember, before Operation Iraqi Freedom, that's George W. Bush's WMD lie. Remember, Sean Penn was in Iraq with a little camera doing his own search for WMDs, and he found none. Remember, he was going around. It was very strange. After Katrina in New Orleans, he was in New Orleans going around the flooded streets carrying a 12 gauge in a boat. Remember that? He was on the front page of the New York Post with a 12 gauge shotgun going around. And I wonder, why did he have the 12 gauge? Who was he protecting himself from? And remember, he was down there with El Chapo before El Chapo was captured. And then you hear this. Is it possible that, and I'm not saying that this is true, I'm asking you if you think this is possible. Is it possible that Sean Penn is a deep state asset, either knowingly or unknowingly? He's a very fine actor, and this is just a script that he's reading, that he's promoting out there? Or is he just a liberal lunatic like Michael Moore, who happens to make movies that are good and he acts well in? Which do you think is most likely? It's hard to say, really, isn't it? But he's been in these very important moments in time, right? Iraq, this, Katrina. There's been other things too. So you got to wonder, why is he always there and how does he get access? How does he get in? I don't know. Has he been to Ukraine? I'm sure he has. It's certainly a question to ask. Yeah, was Sean Penn the one that gave an Oscar to Zelensky? Who gave their Oscar to Zelensky? Was it Sean Penn? Yeah, it couldn't have been Ben Stiller. He doesn't have an Oscar. So, he's in these hot spots. Maybe he is a CIA guy. It makes sense, wouldn't it? I don't know. But I know this. Trump's no threat. You've got nothing to worry about with Trump. Now, Jen Psaki is making some big moves. There was a big story over the weekend that some people were making a big deal about, Doug TenNapel and a few other people, that Rachel Maddow's senior producer who founded the show on MSNBC has left. I don't make too much out of that. Rachel Maddow is only on 1 day a week. It's not a full-time job to be working on her show. Now, she gets paid millions of dollars a year, but the people that work on her show don't get the full-time pay, and for the most part. That's why people leave. It's not as prestigious because it's only on 1 day a week. The other 4 days a week, they plugged in Jen Psaki. And, she worked for Obama. She was one of those Obama staffers with the sad face when President Trump was president-elect the first time and went to the White House. And this clip's been going pretty viral of her talking about Biden's decline.
I never saw that person, not a single time. And I was in the Oval Office every day that was on that debate stage. I'm not a doctor. Aging happens quite quickly.
Oh, come on. The media are really in this bizarre place now where they're trying to act as if they did not know Biden was in cognitive decline. Not only did they know, we know they know because we could see it on television. They're there and see him in person, but they didn't care because they thought they could control him and get their things done. And of course, he's a Democrat, so they are always covering for Democrats. It's amazing to me how these liberals are even addressing the issue. You would think they would ignore it and just move on because, it would be forgotten. He's a one-term president. He's out, although he's going to be on The View this week. And of course he was out of it. And that's why they put him in there, because him being out of it, they thought would be easier for Obama and his team to run the country. What they didn't count on was Jill Biden and the auto pen. And Jill Biden was doing a lot of the running of the country. Well, and I hope that they do an investigation on that auto pen and find out how many crimes were committed and if any murders were committed, because were there military strikes authorized with that auto pen by people that weren't Biden? Well, then those people were murdered. Those are illegal acts. So, the idea that no one knew, come on. She's starting this new show Tuesday through Friday, that Rachel Maddow primetime time slot, and she wants to start off that show by lying. Yeah. But Jen Psaki, they're planning on making a big deal out of her. For some reason, they think she's interesting and can gather an audience. I don't think so. She's very unlikable. She's as credible as Swalwell and Acosta. Now, Ilhan Omar did an interview on Al Jazeera, and this is her, Ilhan Omar.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but a fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. And so if fear was the driving force of policies to keep America safe, Americans safe inside of this country, we should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
Wow. We haven't heard a Democrat talk so racist like that since the Democrats during the Jim Crow era that were opposing the integration of the public schools. And, because she said, well, we should be careful of all white men. That is hardcore, textbook, stereotypical racism. And she says it, going viral, everyone's talking about, but what's being done about it? One of the things that truly needs to be done by Mike Johnson is an investigation into her immigration status. You guys know the story behind that. And if that story is true and they can prove that story, she's in the country. She came into the country under false pretenses, which would invalidate any of her documents, and she'd be out of Congress. You know, we have a lot of people in Congress. She's one of them, who are foreigners who are here to undermine the country, to help bring down the collapse of this country, like these radical judges that are anarchist. She's not an anarchist, but she has a mission here, and that is to bring down the United States, Ilhan Omar. And when you hear the way she's openly talking in English, it's pretty scary, isn't it? It is, that she can talk this way and have no consequences for it, other than everyone's talking about it. And Mike Johnson really needs to step up and call her out. That's some hardcore stuff. Can someone serve in Congress and be so openly racist against a group of people? That's many millions of Americans, white men, right? And by the way, is that just white people that are men who are age 18 and above? Where does she want to begin this keeping an eye on group? Now, I want to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. Thank you all. And remember, if you're a Patreon supporter, you have access to commercial-free editions of all of my podcast episodes. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on every episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, Rob and Trish Wilkerson, John, Frank, Dale, David, Laura, Rob, and SFjr. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you all. And again, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, please do. There is a link in the description of this and every episode of the podcast. All right. Thanks so much. So, Meet the Press's Kristen Welker had a sit down with President Trump. He cleaned her clock.
Some people on Wall Street have expressed concerns that the possibility of a recession is increasing. And I want to know what,
this, now he has a very good comeback, but this R word, the reason that the media keep asking that question is they want to make a recession a reality. The economy's doing well. Things on Friday and the Dow closed down 564 points. The Dow closed on Friday. Things are going well. The job numbers are up. Everything's going perfectly. But if they keep saying the R word over and over and over in the fake news cycle, they think they'll cause a recession, which is what they want, or at least create a public perception that there is one. And I imagine I'll start getting calls on the morning show during the week from the liberal callers, the seminar callers, and the trolls who will start, a recession. They'll start using the recession word all the time.
Some people on Wall Street have expressed concerns that the possibility of a recession is increasing. And I want to know what you think about that. Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time if you are able to achieve your long-term goals?
Well, you say some people on Wall Street say, well, I can tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history.
That's right.
Why don't you talk about them? Because some people on Wall Street say this is the greatest thing.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, though. It's the same question.
Yeah, there are many people on Wall Street say this is going to be the greatest windfall ever happened.
And some people on Wall Street have expressed concerns.
Well, because the reason she doesn't say that is because it doesn't fit her narrative. But that's what they're going for, And Kristen Welker, her show's not been going well. It really hasn't. She's got these talking points. In the last 2 weeks, she's gotten her clock clean. And, they go to the people that tell them what they want to hear, and then they try to turn that into the reality. Now, J.D. Vance, he sat down with Bret Baier, and Bret Baier asked him about AOC being the nominee.
The United States in 2028.
On the Democratic side, do you think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, is the new leader? Could it be Vance AOC in 2028?
President AOC, the stuff of nightmares, Brett. Thank you. You've ruined my sleep for this evening. Go.
Okay, now, AOC, there is, I would say, a 60-40 chance that she'll end up being the senator from New York. That's their plan, is to be the senator from New York and replace Schumer. But she does have a bit of a problem. She was heckled the other day by one of these pro-Hamas people. And can she get elected being anti-Israel and pro-Hamas in New York State at a state level? I don't know these days. I don't know. But that's what the goal has been. They'd like her to be the president or the vice president. That's not going to happen. She's a clown. She's a joke. She has no credibility. And her fame level has really declined, if you've noticed. I think it has, at least. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think AOC's fame climb has stopped, and she's not the it girl anymore. In fact, she's not even the go-to for the sound bites. There's Jasmine Crockett gets more of that than AOC. AOC's kind of out. She got in there a little too young. And people are tired of her. There's short attention span among people, especially liberals. And no, she's not going to be the president. That doesn't mean she's not going to run for president or vice president. But the chances of her getting the nomination, if she ran with Newsom, maybe could get the nomination, but she's not going to get elected. She's a clown. You don't have to worry about it. Now, Michelle Obama, with this podcast, all kinds of weird things have been dropping out of her podcast. And, when the Obamas went to the White House, they were already millionaires. They were worth $1.3 million. So they were millionaires when he got elected. A lot of people don't know that. Most of that probably came from his book, but they were millionaires. Plus, the president makes a salary of $400,000 a year. So they were worth $1.3 million, had a $400,000 a year salary. Just keep that in mind when you hear Michelle Obama here.
As it's expensive to live in the White House, as many people don't know. I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel. If you're not traveling with the president, if your kids are coming on a Bright Star, which is the First Lady's plane, we had to pay for their travel.
You have to pay you have to pay as if it's a first class ticket.
Be on the plane. It is an expensive proposition, and you're running for 2 years and not earning an income.
Oh my goodness. Here you got a woman who's a millionaire, and he was drawing a salary as a senator when he ran. So they were drawing income. He was a sitting senator when they ran. So he was getting that salary plus the $1.3 million they're worth. And she's complaining. It's an amazing thing because the Democrats, there's been such a shift with the Democrats and the Republicans so far as public perception goes in the last few years. And the public perception has been by liberal people that the Democrats are they represent the common man and the Republicans are the party of rich. That's totally gone, And here you have a woman whose husband was earning a six-figure salary. They're millionaires, and she's complaining that they had to pay for the private travel of their kids and that they had to buy their food at the White House. Are you kidding me? And the sense of entitlement from her. Right? Like she's owed all these things. And the only other president I heard complain about that was Jimmy Carter. I heard Jimmy Carter complaining about having to buy the food in the White House. But have you heard anyone else? Trump doesn't even take a salary. Right? He wanted them to pay him $1 a year, but they wouldn't let him do it. So he donates it. And you hear Michelle Obama. The thing about Michelle, she's as likable as Hillary Clinton. And this podcast is exposing people to the very first time to the real Michelle Obama and what she's really like. And she's not pleasant. She's not a nice person. She's not an interesting person. And all of her qualities are pretty negative, aren't they? All right, we're going to take a quick break. I'm Brian. Don't go anywhere. How would you like to live a healthier, more energetic life and enjoy yourself along the journey? You can learn how to do just that in the new book from author Stanley Cook, The Ultimate Keto Kitchen, available on Amazon. The Ultimate Keto Kitchen is your go-to guide for living a healthier, more energized life the delicious way. With this must-read and life-changing book, you'll find 70 easy-to-follow recipes that take the guesswork out of keto, from savory breakfast and satisfying dinners to rich, indulgent desserts. You'll stay in ketosis without sacrificing taste. Each recipe in the Ultimate Keto Kitchen includes full nutritional breakdowns, time-saving tips, as well as customizable meal plans to fit your lifestyle. Whether you're new to keto or looking to break out of a rut, the Ultimate Keto Kitchen makes it simple. Plus, you'll get expert advice on avoiding common pitfalls and maximizing your results. Feel better and have lasting energy. Order your copy of The Ultimate Keto Kitchen from author Stanley Cook on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and Kindle Unlimited. Start your keto journey right now. Are you ready to transform pain into purpose? From author Sammy Dunaway comes your guide to healing what hurts most in the book, Bridge to Redemption, The Power of Forgiveness, available on Amazon. This must-read book combines real-life stories with practical tools like journaling, mindfulness, and empathy building to help you release anger, regret, and bitterness. When you read Bridge to Redemption through the lens of divine grace, you'll learn to forgive others and yourself, mend broken relationships, and find the peace you've been longing for. Whether you're carrying deep wounds or seeking a fresh start, this book is your roadmap to a lighter, freer life. It also makes a great addition to your book club. Discover how forgiveness isn't just a gift for others. It's a lifeline for you, a bridge from pain to peace, from regret to redemption. Bridge to Redemption, The Power of Forgiveness is available now on Amazon. Your journey to healing starts right now. If you're a homeowner or with a homeowners association and your roof is old or compromised, you need to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing. Laporta Roofing has been in the roofing and construction business since 1984, with thousands of roof installations and thousands of satisfied customers. Did you know that in the state of Florida, you can open a roofing company and borrow someone else's license? Tom Laporta is the holder of his roofing and general contractor's licenses, not like the other companies that borrow other people's licenses. So be sure who you're dealing with. Tom Laporta and his team are honest, knowledgeable, and reliable, and he'll never sell you a roof you don't need. Laporta Roofing carries all insurance, including workers' compensation on all of its employees, not just a waiver like other contractors. Laporta Roofing can handle any type of roofing job too: residential roofing, HOAs, condominiums, and churches. If it's roofing, Laporta Roofing can do it. So call Tom Laporta on his cell phone, 954-604-4602, or connect online at laportaroofing.com. That number again is 954-604-4602. Laporta Roofing, the go-to roofing company you can trust. We're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Lynn from Boynton. I just received my 7th and 8th set of Mike Lindell sheets. This time we got flannel ones, which we had never had. I got one for my husband for Christmas. He loves it. Oh, my God. And especially with the cold days and nights we've been having the last few months in Florida. I got 2 more. I send them to my friends for Christmas now, and they just love them. Absolutely love them.
Yeah, I have the flannels, too. You're like Goldilocks. They keep you the same temperature all night long.
Yes. So perfect. The guy just has a great product.
The thing with Mike Lindell sheets, all of them, the fitted sheet at the bottom fits perfectly on the mattress. Every other sheet, you can't get the 4 corners on. And it's almost impossible. Even after having them for years and washing them, I don't know how many times, they still fit perfectly.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
You're probably going to be on the next My Pillow commercial, just so you know, okay?
Okay.
Okay, just to let you know. You heard Lynn from Boynton. She loves her My Pillow sheets. Order yours right now at a huge discount. Use our promo code KANE, KANE, at checkout at mypillow.com.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Republicans can never get a fair shot in the media. During the break, I go over to the Daily Mail, and there's a story. Right now as I'm speaking, it's the lead story in the Daily Mail. By the time you go and look, it may not be the lead story, but it certainly will be there. Okay, this is crazy. Here's the story. Here's the headline. Trump's presidential heir plunged into gay porn scandal. Oh, really? Trump's heir? Who could that be? And they have a picture of J.D. Vance next to Glenn Youngkin. And then you click on the story, and there's a picture of Trump and then 2 guys I'd never heard of before. And you read the story, and no one in Trump's orbit is in a gay porn scandal. But listen to how they write this. This is in the Daily Mail. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin was plunged into scandal after the GOP candidate for lieutenant governor was revealed to allegedly be running a social media account posting images of nude men. Youngkin is facing growing criticism from colleagues, even though on Friday he asked the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor to drop out of the race. His name's John Reed. Reed, who is gay and married, refused to cave to a week of pressure to step aside. Instead, Reed maintains he was not connected to the photos and claims they're an extortion tactic related to what he says are efforts to remove him from the Republican ticket because of his sexual orientation. Now, before I read on, now, if what this guy is, now, first point, I just want to say, this has nothing to do with Trump or an heir to Trump. A gay porn sex scandal to a Trump heir would be if they found a gay porn video of JD, Marco. you know what I mean? You know, this guy's so far removed from Trump, but it looks like, if what he's saying is true, and I think it's highly likely, that some people went and posted some things online claiming to be him. That's possible. Now Youngkin, see, what he says is Reed maintains he was not connected to the photos, claims they're an extortion tactic. See, this is the thing, you know, the new media, the internet is such a great thing, but there's a lot of negatives to the internet, meaning people can go and slander you by posting things up online, claiming to be you. Now Youngkin is stuck in a bind between needing to publicly back the Republican candidate in Virginia's statewide election or not wanting to align himself with the candidate because of the controversy over pornographic social media activity. The whole ordeal could end up hurting Youngkin in his future political endeavors. Have any of you considered Glenn Youngkin an heir to Trump and MAGA? I haven't. And it goes on. I mean, come on, give me a break. That is so weak and far removed from any reality. But that's how the media are, you know. And then what do they do for the Democrats? They constantly cover. I mean, the last 4 years with Biden, Kamala's obviously a drunk. Even in this new appearance she did last week on stage, she was completely hammered. That may have been the most drunk I ever saw Kamala. And they never connect any negativity like alcoholism or Alzheimer's or anything to the Democrats when they're obviously going through that. The Democrats just have complete immunity in the press, or that's why they're fake news, because of stories like this. Now, this Kristen Welker interview that I played a little bit of in the last break, I want to play one more clip, and I'll probably go through more breakdowns on it and play more clips on the morning show tomorrow. But I'm only going to play one more here on the podcast. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see, but maybe just one more on the podcast. And this one is what I consider wishful thinking. You know, leftists in 2025 are obsessed with manifestation, which is if you wish it, it'll happen. You know, just keep thinking like, oh, yes, I can. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. And like they can make it happen. Like they have some magical power. But this question from Kristen Welker reveals a lot about what the never-Trumpers, the fake news media, and the Democrats, how they're planning on dealing with Trump. And such a good answer the president gave, of course. Listen.
You have built a political movement that has transformed the Republican Party. It's transformed the country, quite frankly.
Political movement in history, MAGA. Make America great again.
When you look to the future, Mr. President, do you think the MAGA movement can survive without you as its leader?
Yes, I do.
What gives you?
I think it's so strong, and I think we have tremendous people. I think we have a tremendous group of people. We talked about a number of them. You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. You look at, I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. No, I think we have a tremendous party. And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray.
Yeah, he's right. You know, that's so we know what Kristen Welker and these never-Trumpers are thinking. Okay, well, he's only going to be president in 4 years, and this is going to fall apart. And what they use to manifest this fantasy is the Tea Party. The Tea Party was pretty influential for a short time, and it faded away. The Republican establishment was able to destroy it. And the reason they were able to do that to the Tea Party is the Tea Party didn't have an organization. It didn't have a leader. We've got a leader in Donald Trump, right? He's been twice elected as, you know, this non-consecutive term. And, you know, the thing about Trump, okay, even when he leaves the White House, he's still going to be around, okay? And he is going to be doing rallies for the rest of his life. And what I mean by that is whether he runs in 2028 or not, if he changes the laws, our Constitution, or whoever runs, his endorsement is going to be very, very, very important for the rest of his life. And he will be doing rallies. He'll be able to appear at the conventions, the Republican conventions. He'll be doing rallies, endorsing who he decides to endorse. He might wait until there's a nominee, but his endorsement will mean everything. And then one day in 50 years, when he's no longer with us, the endorsements of Bannon and Don Jr. and Eric and Lara Trump. The Trump family, we have a dynasty. We have a political dynasty, a real one. The Kennedys had one for a while, but we've got one in that the entire Republican Party has been reshaped. And the voters are not going to accept this garbage that we're getting from the Republican establishment, even still today. On the last podcast, I was talking about Ron DeSantis. I got a lot of feedback from this, from listeners who sent me DMs and things. I was talking about something Ron DeSantis is doing here in Florida. He wants to round up thousands and thousands of illegals and send them to El Salvador. And I asked people to let me know, would you trust DeSantis? I mean, DeSantis is doing a lot of very good conservative MAGA things, but can you ever trust him? And I say no. And I didn't hear from a single person who said they would trust him. Every person that left me a message or a comment said, no, I'll never trust Ron DeSantis. The Republican establishment will never again have the Republican voters locked up, voting for them. They used to, the Republican Party agenda that President Trump has accomplished in these 2 terms, right? Overturning Roe v. Wade. We were talking earlier about, this week about defunding NPR and public television. These are all big things in the Republican platform. He's done them all and more. And the Republicans never accomplished anything in the agenda and the Republican Party platform agenda. They never intended to. They just threw this list of things out there to act like they were conservatives to get us to vote for them. And what Republican voters, prior to Trump coming down the escalator, what Republican voters had been doing since Reagan left office in '88 was voting for the lesser of 2 evils. Those days are over. And Republicans will have to be MAGA, or they will not win any elections, not just the presidential election, but governors, even, of course, Congress, but even local elections at the town council and county commission levels. But they think that the establishment, they think they're going to get the party back once Trump is out of the White House. Well, look what happened in the last 4 years when he wasn't in the White House, right? Yeah. How well did the Republican establishment do in the last 4 years with Trump not in the White House? Not very good. Still a MAGA party, and it will continue to be. Also over the weekend, a biological boy won the girls' 800 meter and 1600 meter race in Maine. They got a photo. He does not look transgender. He's got long hair, but that's it. What I wonder, and by the way, Riley Gaines posted this and also posted a picture of the runner running. How do these athletes that are doing this process this? I mean, this one here in this 800 and 1600 races, these are cheaters. This is a cheater. And I'm looking at the person. There's no way that they are not knowingly cheating in this race. They know for a fact that they're cheating in this race. And they're still doing it. And this governor of Maine is the one who disrespected President Trump at that meeting at the White House a few weeks back. The level of mistreatment that women are receiving from the Democrat Party today is at a level that is so difficult for me to understand that people are accepting, that are Democrat voters, right? What's happening to female sports, I mean, come on. They're destroying female sports with these cheaters. I think about it. The second and third place winners would have been first and second. The fourth place winner would have been third. These cheaters are stealing the dreams and away from these girls, and they're also stealing the victories. And where are the Democrats? They're championing this cheating or supporting the wife beater in El Salvador. Those of you out there that are Democrats, that are voting, why are you supporting a party that's mistreating women in a very open way, in ways that we never could have imagined before, supporting wife beaters, supporting this cheating in the athletics. It makes absolutely zero sense to me that there is not a larger movement of women standing up to this, especially after the victory of Trump. Now, I know there are people who are standing up, and Riley Gaines is kind of a leader, but there are still, as crazy as it seems, Democrat women out there who are supporting the Democrat Party, even though they're doing all of these things. Now, speaking of women, Letitia James, this case is moving forward from the Justice Department by Pam Bondi. Listen to this.
Also heard from intelligence sources today out of New York, Eric, that subpoenas have gone out to mortgage companies, insurance companies, and title companies regarding Tish James. Subpoenas have been sent out now.
Tish, that's Letitia James. I guess they call her Tish.
To the companies to brought them in under oath to go before a grand jury. So there's movement as well.
Okay, so see, grand jury. They got grand juries going. And this is what I've been telling you guys. Pam Bondi, I'm telling you, she's got grand juries going. Grand juries are secret. Things leak out like this, but grand juries are secret. Now, in the past, everything about grand juries has leaked out, especially the last 4 years. But the Trump administration, they're not into leaks. People leak, they get fired, they get criminal referrals. And see, Letitia James, who's one of the leading lawfare people, she's some of that low-hanging fruit to go after because of the mortgage fraud. Everything is documented with her signatures on for every one of the frauds. How many times? You ever go and get a mortgage? How many times did you sign your name during a closing? So they have paper evidence with her signature on it, committing fraud over and over and over again. So it would not surprise me that out of all the lawfare people, she's the first. And not only the first, maybe even gets the most severe penalties because there's so much evidence against her. So I keep telling people, be patient with Pam Bondi, be patient with Kash Patel. Dan Bongino did not walk away from a multi-million-dollar job to do nothing. Okay? And same with Kash Patel. These are the real deal, and Pam Bondi. And what's going to happen is one day we're going to go to the news and boom, breaking news, an indictment. And there'll be more. And Letitia James deserves it. She really, truly deserves it. I mean, what she did to President Trump, basically what she did to President Trump is bring fake charges against him for what she was doing, right? Total projection. She brought fake charges against President Trump for the crime she had been committing her entire adult life, it seems. And, she's worth many millions of dollars. And I pointed out many times that she's worked for the government her whole life, and she's not married, except she said she was married to her father on that one mortgage form. But she's not married. She has no family, generational wealth. She has no wealth from a husband. And how did she become a millionaire? Now we know. Mortgage fraud. And she's going to go to prison. Letitia James is going to go to prison. And it's going to be federal prison because these are federal crimes that she committed. My name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next time.